and welcome to Berkeley College, Newark. My name is Stan Holland. I'm the campus operating officer for the Newark campus here, which 6 years ago was a startup campus for the college. And on behalf of our chairman, Mr. Kevin Lewing, the president, Dr. Dario Cortez, I'd like to officially welcome you to Berkeley College. Berkeley College is a leader in business education and has been for over 80 years. And it is a recently accredited institution by the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, enrolling over 7,700 students, including more than 800 international students in its baccalaureate and associate degree programs. The college has 4 locations: Woodland Park in New Jersey, Woodland Park, Paramus, Woodbridge, and the Newark campus. And in New York, there are 4 locations in New York: Midtown Manhattan on 43rd and 41st Streets, Lower Manhattan in the Wall Street area, a Brooklyn campus, and a campus in White Plains. Berkeley College Online also offers all our full degree programs. The programs offered in more than 20 career fields, and you may go to our website at www.berkeleycollege.edu for further information. I would like to also tell you that the openings of 2 additional locations in Clifton and Dover, New Jersey are planned for 2013, subject to regulatory approval. Today, a swiftly rising number of American workers at every level are in direct competition with workers in every corner of the globe. Our mission here at Berkeley College is to ensure the personal and professional success of every student so that they can compete and win in a global economy that extends beyond the reaches of our city and our state. The best employers the world over will be looking for the most competent, most creative, and the most innovative people on the face of the earth, and be willing to pay them top dollar for their services. This will be true not just for top professionals and managers, but up and down the length and breadth of the workforce. Those countries that produce the most important products and services can capture a premium in the world's markets that will enable them to pay high wages for their citizens. Our job as business and education leaders is to make sense of the contextual framework of our city, state, country, and the globe, to harness the power of that contextual framework so that we can make a difference in the lives of our students. We also need to understand the macro and micro levels, factors that play at any given time, factors in impacting on our abilities to educate students so that we can use that in our decision making. We have approximately 79% of our students in bachelor's degree programs here, 21% in associate's degree programs, and from a diversity standpoint, we have 28% Hispanic, 27% African American, approximately 14% Caucasian, and 9% of all our students are international students. The gender breakout is 66% female and 34% male. And in terms of age, 47% of our students are 22 and younger, and the remaining 53% are 23 and older. So as you can see, those who are going to school, the trends are trending away from high school and toward adults. So, I would like to also let you know that we have the programs that we offer are many and numerous, but they all fall under 3 schools: the School of Business, and that school has been named recently the Larry Lewing School of Business by the father and founder of the institution. The other school is the School of Professional Studies, and the other one is the School of Liberal Arts. The The college itself gives over $40 million annually in institutional aid to students with scholarships and grants for qualified students provided during the school year. We receive federal aid in New York. It's TAP and the state aid in New Jersey is TAG. We also, a few years ago, started a military and veterans office here, and our military and veterans population is growing. We had probably less than 100, and now we have almost 500 students who are former military veterans from various parts of the city and county. Berkeley College accesses a wide range of career-oriented programs. We have a career services program here, career counselors that primarily focus on internships and job opportunities for all of our students. I'm not sure you're aware of it, but Berkeley College every student here that attends Berkeley is required to fulfill the commitment of an internship, either for an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. So all of our students serve in internships, and the hope is that those jobs, internships, will convert to full-time jobs in their majors. As I said, accreditation, we're accredited in both New York and New Jersey by the middle states. Some of the Berkeley advantages include a supportive faculty selected on the basis of academic excellence and relevant professional experience. Flexible scheduling, we have classes both during the day and evenings all the way up until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. The financial aid that I mentioned, a lot of practical experience and programs related. We have academic service learning in the community where students are actually with their professors do projects with organizations, for-profit and non-profit in the community. Tuition freeze for students who meet continuous enrollment requirements. So anyone who goes to school continuously without a break, their tuition is frozen. We have an extensive network of employer contacts. So we're talking about in excess of 300 or 400 organizations, both for-profit and not-for-profit institutions that actually allow us to place our students in intern. And the last is free lifetime career assistance for Berkeley College graduates. So anyone who graduates from the college is also can come back and get support with regards to job opportunities if they, for whatever reason, lose their job. So we think that's excellent. The last thing I'd like to talk about is some of the recent awards that the college has. We have, for the past several years, been voted as the best company to work for in both the state of New Jersey and New York by New Jersey Biz. This campus got the Good Service Award, new business award here for conversion of this building into a resource within the community. Our president was honored by the Hispanic Business Council Scholarship Foundation of New Jersey, awards by Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and as a military-friendly institution, we have been awarded the Military-Friendly Institution Award for our support of the military. And so with that, I'm going to wrap up my remarks, but I'd like to ask if there are any questions that anyone has for me before I have a seat. There's so much more we could talk about. I'd just like to say it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve in the capacity that I am at the institution. Helping our youth and making a difference is absolutely very important to us, and this campus and our students as well as faculty are totally immersed in the community here in Newark and Essex County and beyond, and we're very proud of the impact that we as an institution have made in the city of Newark and Essex County. So with that, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Stan. And good morning. I'm Rebecca Perkins, President of the Council on State Public Affairs, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to this 9th of 10 sessions that we have around the state on the state of the county and the region, New Jersey, 2012. We're delighted to be here this morning at Berkeley College, and we want to thank Berkeley College for sponsoring this event. And we'd also like to acknowledge Allstate Insurance as the series sponsor for the entire series. So we're delighted to be here this morning and with Dr. Joseph Scuralli. And Joe, do you want to tell us what you do here at Berkeley College?
Yes, I'm the chair of the management department across the entire system in New York and New Jersey and online. And I'm also a faculty member, a full-time faculty member. So I'm a professor in the classroom and I teach online and on-site, but I also am responsible for the academic activities throughout the management department.
Actually, Stan's remarks were perfect to set this up, so we want to thank you for that. I think we want to look today at a couple of things. First of all, at the economy overall, how the economy is changing, and then secondly, what that means for workers and for people who need to be employed, obviously, in the United States today. Employment is a big topic in this year's presidential election. You're an MBA, you're a business owner, former business owner, and we should mention too that Joe also has the unique position of being an elected official in nearby Passaic Township, or county, in Wayne Township.
Wayne Township, that's correct.
That's council president. So we're going to ask you to bring all those things, all those perspectives into play today. So obviously the economy, as we said, a hot topic today. How has the economy changed overall for this country, say, in the past 10 years?
Well, I can give you a personal example. For 25 years, I ran a plastics processing machinery company that was my father and mother's. It was in business for 50 years, and we operated in Total, New Jersey, and we came to a point where we were, for many years we were doing a lot of business in Japan and China, exporting, building things in New Jersey, and exporting them all over the place. I personally spent a lot of time in China and Japan, and there came a day where there were machines coming from other countries that were being sold at the price that we were paying for the parts. So it comes to a certain point where you can improve on labor, you can improve on efficiency, but when it gets to the point where a company can't sell at the price above what it buys its parts for, there's really no move left. So we ended up selling the technology to a global firm that was in a similar business, and this is the whole story of what has to be done in New Jersey in a microcosm. We had to take our real estate, an industrial building, and we had to find a new use for it.
And how big was that building, that property?
It wasn't that large. It was only about 25,000 square foot. And what we ended up doing was leasing it to a bank who had a branch in there and also used it for a computer backup center. Because with all of the terrorism, the government wants backup centers in case facilities fail or are attacked or can't work.
That's a growing industry in New Jersey.
Yes. So I tell that story because New Jersey does have an industrial past. New Jersey has has a legacy of industrial workers, of manufacturing workers, of engineering workers, and all that goes with it, supplies. And it also has a large stock of commercial and industrial buildings. Those, like the workforce, have to be converted. We have to make changes, and we have to adjust to the new economy to move forward. So that's really the challenge. How does in a not completely post-industrial, but at a reduced post-industrial level of operation, how does the economy replace that, adjust, and move forward and grow?
There are so many things, I mean, so many questions that just raises. New Jersey especially has always been a manufacturing industry, historically, right? And as you mentioned, the reasons that your company had to go out of business, like just the global competition from cheaper parts, cheaper labor. Was there any way that we could have gotten ahead of that curve in New Jersey and changed things, do you think? Is New Jersey any different from any other state with a manufacturing base?
I think all the states are facing the same issues, maybe some less than others. In New Jersey, we do face some things where we're a little less competitive than other states. For instance, the the high level of property taxes. For instance, there's counties in New Jersey, and they vary every year which ones they are, but Bergen and Passaic. In Bergen and Passaic counties, people on average pay the highest share of property taxes compared to their income out of anybody in the entire country.
Right.
So when we have people and businesses that have to fork over the highest level of property taxes, where firms in other states are nowhere near that level, it presents a real problem, especially to get companies that are real estate intensive in their operations to come or stay in New Jersey. It's a big issue. So that is something that New Jersey really has to address.
And that's from both a personal and a commercial perspective. You think they're not looking at their employees and thinking employees don't want to live here because of the high property tax. They're thinking from a business perspective they don't want to pay property tax.
Well, they have to pay not only do they have to pay the property tax on their operations, which is excessive. Their employees have to pay their employees more. They have to pay their local suppliers more because their local suppliers have higher costs. So in every step of the value chain, costs are higher and higher. It almost becomes, if you want to deal locally, it almost becomes like a value-added tax like they use in Europe,
right,
where every step it costs more and more and more. And the unfortunate thing is that it becomes an implicit tax, not an explicit tax. People don't realize that they're even paying that level of tax. And it just results in higher prices, and it makes us less and less competitive.
I think in the past we've always said that because of the quality of life in New Jersey, that it's a fair trade-off, that it may cost more to live here, but you've got so many more benefits, the advantages of being in a nice area with nice schools, good schools, that those things outweigh the impact of high property tax. That's what you're saying is that's just not simply the case anymore.
Well, it's from a business standpoint, from a business that's thinking of investing. This is these are very hard questions and things that have to be decided. I personally love New Jersey. I love living here. I love being able to. I love my neighbors, and it's true that we have so much to offer. But we do have to look at companies that are multinational corporations who can operate anywhere in the world, exactly, not just the country. So we really have to, if we want to bring those type of employers in, we have to make it attractive. And if we are going to continue down the road of having disadvantages such as high property taxes, we do have to have an emphasis on what is positive about New Jersey.
From the good news standpoint, though, in the corporate tax, I think I saw recently that New Jersey moved from being the 50th or the worst state in the nation for corporate taxes. We're now 49th. So
it's a step in the right direction. So, I hope our governor and legislature continue to work on it.
It's interesting, though. I heard a speaker yesterday at a program I was at say that when Christy Whitman was governor, we actually were ranked 7th in the nation in terms of business taxes and desirability to do business, and that we've dropped since to 50th, 49th. I think we share with New York for that honor, that distinction. How do we do that rapidly? When Christy Whitman was governor, it wasn't that long ago. How do we drop from a ranking that was pretty good to being the worst in the country?
Well, again, property taxes has a big influence on you have to look at the total tax that a business pays. It's not just any particular sector. It's not just there's taxes that businesses pay even if they don't make money. For instance, property taxes, like I said before, the implicit tax that they're paying on everything that they buy. So there's certain fixed taxes and fixed amount of expropriation that has to be given, expenditure, for all of these government costs. There's licensing fees. For example, when I was in business, I had a spray booth that was maybe the width of the back wall in this room, maybe 20 foot wide. I had to pay, I think, $400 or $500 a year just for a license to have a spray booth.
Which didn't, that was a part of your business.
Right,
part
exactly.
Of what you made.
So there's so many different government agencies that levy their own license fees and have their own sets of regulations. This all adds up, and it has nothing to do with income. For instance, corporate taxes are only paid on profits.
Right.
These types of fees and costs by government being levied on business have nothing to do with profit. So if business has to treat this as part of their fixed cost, and it just makes it harder and harder for a profit to come up. So these are issues, and it does happen because, I mean, we may have eroded because of also other states improving their climate. So, you know.
It's a very competitive environment.
Yes.
If you want to attract business. So. Let's talk about another sector that's been strong in New Jersey for the longest time, the pharmaceutical industry, global pharmaceutical industry.
Yes.
And now we're seeing a lot of companies taking their research operations to other states. The impact of having an educated workforce, have we seen that decline in New Jersey, relative especially to that industry, the pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I think the pharmaceutical industry is unique in that there's been a very big impact on generics coming up. And this has definitely hurt a lot of pharmaceutical outfits because they can no longer make money realistically on any product once it goes off patent. What many people don't understand about pharmaceuticals is that roughly there are 15 or 16 losers for every winner that get to go through the FDA process.
Right.
So a company has to produce roughly 16 drugs before it can get one to go through. The one that goes through has to pay all of the costs for the 16
Right.
losers. So this is why drugs cost so much money. It's not that you're only paying for the one winner, you're paying for the ones that didn't make it. So this cost is there. The generics have come in, which make it less attractive because you can only make money for a limited window of time now. And the issue of moving out of New Jersey, for instance, Roche recently closing operations. A lot of this, though, is due to consolidation in the pharmaceutical industry, not necessarily that they're leaving New Jersey because of an issue in New Jersey.
Right.
It has to do with the fact that when firms consolidate, they already have operations in other states, other parts of the world, and if the bigger fish is somewhere else,
right,
that's where it goes. And I think that that's the case with Roche. I don't believe that, from my information, I don't claim to be an expert on what the decision-making process was, but I believe it had more to do with consolidation than it had to do with the state climate.
And you're right, as that industry changes, we have to adapt, obviously, or not, find a replacement for that industry, or just find a way to deal with that. So that's been a huge factor in New Jersey's economy. What are some other things that might have impacted New Jersey's economy? The loss of manufacturing, the changes in the pharmaceutical industry. I think those were our major employment sectors, right, for the longest time?
Yes, and well, it's the other things are infrastructure. You know, we do have, and we're working on that. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure projects going on around the state. There are a lot of change, and Mr. Holland spoke about this building being converted to a college, a academic institution. When you have companies and groups, nonprofit groups that are willing to come in and put the capital in and convert our existing assets to new operations, that provides, for instance, the college provides not only employment opportunities for people to work here, but educational opportunities for students. So this is a case also of how you must adapt the infrastructure to match up.
And in a classic infrastructure sense, this is part of the state, but Essex County, Hudson County, Union County are especially impacted by things in the port, transportation, those things that if we don't make improvements in the infrastructure, we face the chance of seeing those industries decline as well.
That's correct. I mean, although New York City might be the hub of the world's business, there's a lot of things that just can't be done in New York City. There's not much, of course, open land, for example. It's certainly not competitive to put up a factory. It may not be competitive to put up any back office operations. So we are the natural place in New Jersey for these businesses to operate. We're very close. We have the ports. We have Newark Airport. So this is, you know, we're set in a lot of ways to fully participate in the recovery when it comes.
Do we know when that's going to happen?
We don't know.
And this is really a different kind of recession, right? We've never seen anything like this before in this country.
Right. It's probably, you know, the worst time since the since the 30s. But let's all hope that with our continued efforts and our ability to, change and adapt, that we can get out of this.
And while the employment picture seems to be looking brighter in the country now, we're still lagging behind by several points in New Jersey, right?
Yes, we do. Again, we've suffered more because of traditionally many of our people have become structurally unemployed.
Which means what?
Well, that means that in other words, they are unemployed because the skills that they have are no longer needed. And for instance, to go back to the manufacturing. When people are seasonally unemployed, for example, a landscaper in the winter, we know it's going to get better in the summertime.
Right.
And a lot of times the landscaper can adapt and plow snow in the winter. But, and we also have frictional unemployment where college graduates don't get a job immediately. It takes them 3 months or whatever. That may happen. That's why we work so hard here on career services, and our career services people, work very hard to get them jobs before that happens. But the frictionals, as far as the economy goes, is not really an issue because it goes away. The real problem is structural, and I think that this is where we have to take workers, and when I say workers, I mean all types of workers. Although surgeons aren't out of work, surgeons are workers too. So it's not just that we're talking about a particular class, and that's another example to show you how the internet has affected jobs. Radiologists. Basically being a radiologist was a license to print money.
Exactly.
And now the big problem is in that industry, as far as competition goes, is that MRI scans and x-rays are routinely being sent over the internet overnight to countries like India, where they have very well-qualified radiologists. They read the scans, send back a report, and the doctor has a report the next morning.
That's amazing.
And it's read, and a lot of these doctors have gone to American schools. So these are jobs where no one ever thought that the changes in technology would ever affect them. But even radiologists are getting hit by foreign competition now. So I think everybody in every sector of the economy, so far they haven't figured out how to give you a haircut over the internet, but
it's coming,
one of these
right?
days
It's coming, yeah.
might happen.
So when we watch the presidential debates and listen to all the back and forth about who can create more jobs and how can we revive the economy and get unemployment, back up to a level, or employment back up to full level, is the reality just that some of those people who are unemployed now, structurally unemployed, as you say, is there just like a lost generation, essentially? Are some people just never going to be able to recover if they're older, perhaps, and can't really be retrained or refitted for a new job?
Well, I think everyone can be retrained. I think anybody who's willing to work, anybody who's willing to look towards a brighter future, I think anyone is capable of being retrained.
And will there be jobs for them, though? What's the retraining?
I believe so, because although the economy is not in the greatest shape now, we are recovering, and there are sectors that are growing. I mean, the total economy is down, but there are sectors for growth. That's where we have to focus on, retraining people that are willing to be retrained, and I think most people are looking for that, and their skill set is not completely useless usually in most cases. Maybe 30 or 40% of what they know is still something that can be applied when other training is added on. And this is, for example, why we have so many adult students here, is because they have worked, they've got experience, but now they need to add to that and become fully competitive. So I do think that there is a bright future for those that wish to be retrained and put the effort on.
And it leads into almost our next panel. Our discussion will be on education. But how do you really prepare yourself for the economy of the 21st century as we're watching it develop? What do you think that that people who are going through school now, what kinds of things should they be doing and looking for?
Well, they have to keep very much in touch in where the growth sectors are. That's why we put so much effort in our career services area to study trends. There are forecasts from the government, from the Department of Labor and other government agencies, where they forecast what the jobs are going to be, what the salaries are going to be, what the estimates are. So using government research and private institution research, we can see where the growth is now in the economy, where the likely jobs are coming. To give you an example, we just switched, we used to have a degree program in my department called Information Systems Management. We found out that while that program was useful a few years ago, the students were not getting the jobs that we were looking for them to get, so we made a change. And now we have an Information Technology Management program, which teaches them to become managers of IT departments, which is a growing trend.
Okay.
So where the other one we started to see was starting to get soft, we moved to one that was growing. This is what people have to do in their own careers, redirect.
So do you feel pretty hopeful then about the economy as we come out of this instance, that there will be plentiful jobs for everyone once we recover from this temporary, hopefully?
I hope so. I have an eight-year-old little boy, and he's got a long way to go, so I'm very hopeful, and I'm trying to put all my efforts into helping things move along. I hope everyone else is too.
Let's talk about New Jersey. Let's get back to New Jersey for a minute. We talked briefly before this session started about the shift in New Jersey, how we're trying to really rebuild the urban areas, revitalize the urban areas, and drive industry and business to the urban areas. What does that mean for states that, or for counties rather, that are not urban centers? I live in Somerset County, which traditionally has been like a great place for corporations. They love being out in the suburbs. They love the suburban lifestyle for their employees. I think people in Somerset County officials are feeling a little panicked right now because of the changes that they're seeing. This new master plan is going to drive people back to the urban areas. How are the suburban areas going to retool and refit for a future that really isn't going to be theirs by design anymore?
Okay, well, to switch hats a little bit. As you mentioned, I'm the council president in Wayne Township, and we're a township of about 55,000 people, 27 square miles, and we have a lot of single-family homes and industry, and an issue that you really run into more in a suburban setting is planning and zoning.
Right.
So we have established centers in our suburban areas in the state where people in a town have industrial areas, they have commercial areas, they have retail areas, and they have areas for housing, for residential. Unfortunately, a lot of the industrial stock has to be converted. You have a lot of mixed-use towns. You have towns that are older towns where you might have a factory right next to residential areas. The newer developed towns tend to have more planning and zoning where they've separated them. So I think a big challenge, for instance, what we're doing in Wayne Township is we look for new businesses. When the new businesses want to come into the town, instead of letting them just get in front of a planning board or a board of adjustment on their own, we actually have a meeting with them, with the planner, with the zoning officer, with the health department, with the water department, with all the different players to talk about what the proposal is and what they want, and actually work out, get all of the problems out of their way before they go in front of the boards and get turned down. Because what many people don't realize is that once you go in front of a zoning board, if you're turned down, there's a legal term, res judicata, you cannot go back.
So you have one shot?
Yeah, you've got one shot, and unless you've got a substantially changed application, you cannot go back. And many companies invest a significant amount of money. They go and make a conditional contract on a piece of property. It gets delayed for several months, could be a year, in a planning board. And then all of a sudden find out after the end of that whole process that they're not going to make it through.
And that inability for sure, the uncertainty is hard enough. And then spending the time, investing the money, and finding out that you're not going to have that happen. It's obviously a big investment for a company. But that's a very pro-business, proactive sense that you use in your town.
Yes.
Has that changed?
Has it changed you mean has it changed?
Well, my guess would be that most towns, perhaps in the past, even in the recent past, haven't been that proactive in the sense of going out, reaching out to business and saying, we want to work with you.
Well, I think they haven't had to in the past. I think that, municipalities are starting to realize that they need business, that business is not the enemy. So many in municipalities have this view that somehow businesses are not something that they want. They don't want industrial areas. But the problem is that if you don't have the business in an area, then the residents have to pay all the taxes.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is that businesses don't use many government services. They usually don't call the police much. They usually don't call ambulances much. So the more business you have that's paying the taxes, that's immediate tax relief for residents. So I think now governments and business are starting to work together a lot more than in decades past.
Of course, that gets us into the whole question of New Jersey's municipal government structure. With while you're chasing your ratables and you want them to come into Wayne, your neighboring town is perhaps doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
So do you think we need to get away from that? I mean, there's always talk about shared services and consolidation. If somebody moves into your next town, clearly it doesn't help you, but it does help the county overall.
That's correct.
I mean, can we get away from that competition of my town versus your town, or are we going to be always locked into that in New Jersey?
Well, it's going to be there for some degree, but you are correct. For instance, in many towns, like ballpark figures in our town, over 50% of the taxes go towards the Board of Education. So you have that go. We actually, a resident in our township actually pays more money in property taxes to the county than they pay to the township. So actually,
You tell them that all the time too, right?
We do tell them that all the time.
Yeah.
And so actually, they're paying more towards county government than they're paying towards municipal government. So to some degree, yes, anywhere in a particular county that a business decides to operate, it does help on the county level. There's always going to be some competition, but I think the free market is helpful. I think it's something. I don't see competition as a destructive force. I see it as a force for making things more competitive and lowering costs for everyone. Great.
Well, we are almost out of time in this discussion. I told you it would go quickly, and it has. Just to close up, how would you really characterize the economy right now? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic, or are you pessimistic about the state of the economy in New Jersey right now?
Well, like the day follows the night and the low tide follows the high tide. I think that it's cyclical. I think that it's going to get better. We've been through many economic cycles before. This one is bad. It's been a rough ride, but I do believe certainly we're in a trough now, and we're going to be on our way up. And I think we have a bright future ahead of us, but we have to do everything that we can to maximize the upswing so that we can make it ride as far as we can.
When you look at the impact of the upcoming presidential elections, I was at a business forum yesterday, and I was really astonished to hear the degree of uncertainty that most businesses feel because of taxes, because of the fiscal cliff that we're talking about, and with that prospect looming. Do you think that regardless of who wins the election, what kind of an impact does that really have on businesses? Will we see things start to move a bit after the election?
Well, I believe so. It's typical that before a presidential election, the uncertainty causes a slowdown in business. For instance, stock trading volumes are down. There's some that are arguing it's because of the uncertainty with the election. There's others that are saying it's because business is getting ready for continued years of slow growth. But the uncertainty is a very big issue. I think that after the election, no matter who wins, there will be that degree of it will be eliminated, and usually things pick up afterwards. So I see that as it'll be a positive thing to get past the election.
Well, it's nice to end on that optimistic note. Thank you so much, Joe, for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right.